Welcome back, everyone, to Engadget's virtual CES 2021 stage. I'm reviews editor Cherlynn Low, and right now we have prepared for you a panel with Google and Microsoft representatives about accessibility in tech. Now, at CES, a lot of products are being announced in categories like cars, TVs, laptops, all kinds of things, and there are devices that are made for accessibility users as well, but it's not, I think, it's important for us to also think about accessibility in all areas of tech and not just in these specific categories too. We want to be inclusive with product design. And so today I wanted to talk to, and I'm very excited to have two guests here today, starting with Microsoft's Chief Accessibility Officer, Jenny Lay-Flurrie. Jenny, how are you today?
Hi there, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this panel. I also have to just introduce very quickly Belinda, who's my ASL sign language interpreter, as I'm deaf. So just she'll be visible on the screen as we're talking through. And if I'm a little delayed, forgive it. It takes us a second to finish that in sign language before I can answer. But yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And yes, viewers, please, if there is a bit of a delay, that's not a buffer or a lag. Also joining us, and also I'm very happy to have join us today, is Brian Kemler, the product manager for Android accessibility. Hi, Brian, how are you?
Hey, Cherlynn, very well. Thank you so much for giving myself and Google, as well as all the people who use our products, the opportunity to discuss a little bit more about what we're doing in accessibility.
Yeah, so I've spoken with both of you at length before, and I've really enjoyed our conversations in the past. And I wanted to put together this panel after that article that I managed to publish at the end of last year, because there was just so much that all three of us, I think, talked about that did make it into the article. And a format like this, I feel like, gives us a bit more time to dig deeper into some of the issues. So before I get into some of those issues, I wanted to start with Brian. If you can kind of walk our viewer through, because not everyone knows what accessibility tools are currently available in the world of Android. Brian, do you want to give people a rundown of some of the tools, maybe just in the last year or so, that Google has introduced in the accessibility arena?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So I'll talk about some of the new tools that we've introduced first, and then I'll chat a little bit about some of kind of the staples as part of the platform. So for different people have different needs. And if you have deafness or if you're hard of hearing, we've done a lot of innovation in that field in the last 2 to 3 years, and we've launched some really cool products. So we launched one product called Live Transcribe, and what Live Transcribe does is it allows me to use my phone as a virtual transcription service. So I can hold it out when I'm having a conversation in real time, in the real world with a person, and it will display captions on the screen. And so that's really helpful and really, really useful if you're not able to hear somebody in any kind of setting, whether it's a doctor's office, a doctor's visit, or we do bank teller or your barista, that type of thing. We've also launched a similar feature on Android, which provides captions for any media on the device. So imagine your Instagram stream, imagine any social media or any content like TikTok or whatnot. And if there's media content, that media content probably doesn't have captions. And so using on-device speech recognition models, live caption is able to caption any media on an Android smartphone. So those are some of the new products. Older products that we've had that we continue to develop and build upon are things like TalkBack. TalkBack is our screen reader, and it makes all of Android as well as all Google apps and first-party and third-party apps available and accessible to people who either don't have sight or who have limited sight, so that they can interact and really perform any type of action on Android without actually looking at the display. And there's more, but
I'm sure there's plenty more. And thank you for giving us that brief rundown, because again, I'm an able-bodied person. I'm not fully aware of all the tools that are available, so it's good to hear from you. Jenny, we've spoken about this before too, and I just wanted you to pick maybe your favorite accessibility tools from Microsoft over the past few years. What do you think?
So, I mean, I love, Brian, what you're saying. I mean, accessibility is all about making sure that you have digital tools, particularly within our realm, tools that can empower you, whether that's at work, life, play. And I think it's been so important in the last 12 months, even more important than it already was, to use these tools, to have them easily and quickly available. My favorite, as someone who is deaf, I absolutely love the innovations that are happening in captioning. We're talking actually using Skype right now. I've got captioning running at the bottom of my screen. That's in Microsoft Teams. The accuracy of that captioning makes it reliant. I can use it for everyday use. And I just think that is so important. And it's just there, it's free, it's quick, and it's immediately available. So I think captioning is a really important innovation. I also love the diversity of features coming out. We have something called eye control just built into the core of Windows, which is the ability to move a mouse with just your eyes, powering kids that may have different disabilities or people with ALS, which is where it came from. And that was our inspiration for the feature. So yeah, I think the diversification of features is also incredibly important.
We will, I think, get to some of the diversification in a little bit. But for now, Jenny, I also wanted, the viewer right now who might not have read the article to get a chance to know, what does the accessibility team at Microsoft look like? How do you operate?
So accessibility has been a core part of Microsoft for, over 20 years. And I've had the honor of being in this role for the last 5. And the core sort of makeup of the team is a gang of expert humans who are often people with disabilities bringing their expertise in, but they're also amazing technical, inclusive disability inclusion experts, just amazing in their own discipline, working towards a cohesive goal of making sure that everything that we do is inclusive. So it's a hub and spoke. My team sits in the core of Microsoft, and then we partner with every team across the company, whether that's Xbox or Office or Windows or our hiring areas, to make sure that we have an ecosystem of accessibility. So it's kind of the funnest, I think, coolest job that you can get, because we get to touch everything and learn from all of the experts. So whether you're a class 1 nerd that wants to work in Office and learn from there, or you're a wannabe gamer and you want to learn about Xbox and how to make gaming inclusive for people with disabilities, we get to touch all of that, which is just, it's a privilege.
I want to get into how that informs product design in a little bit, but Brian, can you tell us what the accessibility team at Google or Android look like?
Yeah, sure. So that was a great answer. It's great to see how many awesome things that Microsoft does with accessibility. On the Google side, accessibility is really part of our mission to make the world's information universally accessible and useful. And so we similarly have a central team, but we have other more diversified teams. And then literally every team that builds products at Google has to meet our internal standards or our internal requirements. And so and we take that really seriously. And part of that is just baked into our product development process. So, and part of our job for those of us who actually work on a specific accessibility team is sometimes we build products that are standalone products, like I mentioned before, live caption, live transcribe. Sometimes we advise internal teams on how to make their products more accessible so that anybody, regardless of what type of disability condition they may have, can use Android and can indeed use any and all Google products. So it's something we take very seriously. It's something our top everybody from Sundar at the CEO level down to any rank and file person at Google knows about, hears about, has training about, and is literally embedded in the product development process.
And you sort of touched on this, but I guess I wanted to be a bit more explicit about it. So at what stage in product design is accessibility sort of considered? Is it from the very beginning? Is it maybe later in the testing stage? What is that like at Google, Brian?
So we've evolved this over the years. It's very early on in the initial product development phases because typically what we've seen, and I'm sure Microsoft could validate this as well, if you start late in the game, you're going to get into trouble and you're not going to build something accessible. So by front loading this and by getting everybody to think about accessibility and to think about inclusion from the very, very, very beginning. And oh, by the way, at the end of that process, there's a lot of stuff that you need to go through, not in terms of just hand-wavy requirements, but in terms of actual concrete tests that your product has to get through, right? So that in every stage of that process, we are making sure our standard products are working. And then on the accessibility side, how we build products like TalkBack, how we build products like Live Caption, we partner directly with accessibility communities. So, I for one, I have good hearing, I have good sight, at least for now at this point in my life, right? And so how do I, as a product development professional, build empathy for the users for whom I'm building products? Well, that means developing and establishing and cultivating relationships with the communities for whom we're building, right? And testing the product, providing those people, those users with early access to that product, and getting their feedback and making changes on those on that feedback. So for each one of our products, we have groups of people who use them early, who provide us feedback, and in many cases build those products directly with us.
That's insightful and good to know. I wanted to ask Jenny the same thing. At what stage in Microsoft's product design is accessibility considered?
Yeah, Brian, I think you put it so well. If you do this at the end, you're not going to create good products and you're going to give yourself a real headache, right? And if you live and breathe the principles of inclusive design, which is that if you design with and for people with disabilities, you will quite simply create better products, then the onus has to be on right at the beginning. And so as you're creating that product, as you're looking at the vision of what you want to imagine, it's pulling in the right people to help making sure that you're designing with and through. I think one great example of that is the Xbox Adaptive Controller. This was something that was done as a hackathon project. It was a gang of amazing humans that came in, leaning on expertise from actually a NGO focused on veterans with disabilities and building gaming rigs for folks coming back from service. And over a couple of years, they iterated, I don't know how many different 3D printed versions of this thing. Eventually ended up being launched by Xbox as this cool, standalone, affordable, adaptive device that's just there, and you can make it work no matter whether you're missing one finger, a thumb, or you're missing an arm or a leg, whatever it may be, we can make this thing work for you, and you can game, which is such an important element. Everyone deserves play. Everyone needs play. So I think that's the most beautiful example of inclusive design, of where you really take this in at the beginning. But I think that same thing works for everything, whether it's a standalone piece of hardware, or it's a widget, or it's a feature that's going into your next version of whatever your product is. So, just the principles of inclusive design are beautiful and really, really important.
I want to move on now kind of to look at what more we can do as an industry. And tech alone is so wide ranging, so broad in scope that it feels like we're always going to be working on inclusive design. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts, and we'll start with Jenny. What are your thoughts on accessibility in emerging technologies like XR, for example? Is Microsoft looking at that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely, we're looking at that. I think, like with anything, when a new technology starts to evolve, it's really important to make sure that disability, from an inclusion perspective, is a key part of that. So whether it's looking at the data desert, which is in AI, how can we make sure that data from people with disability goes into AI, or it's making sure that new technologies like AR and MR are coming out are inclusive. We're always looking to ensure that those are embedded beautifully in. And so those key principles of inclusive design, we kind of figure out the methodologies, the processes, the principles going in. And then it's kind of like, okay, now we've got the basics in place. Let's see what these things can do to help change paradigms. Digital technology, digital accessibility has the power to empower. And I think AR, MR is absolutely a great example of that. It can help with direction. It can help with specific guidance. We're seeing already the implications of it within one of our sort of great apps developed by one of our blind developers here called Seeing AI. But I think we've touched the surface bluntly of what's possible here. I think there's a lot more to learn.
Brian, what about you? How does Google approach emerging technologies like, say, whatever example you can come up with? I'm thinking VR and AR too, but how does Google approach accessibility on those areas?
Yeah, so we work very early on with our research team, and we have a very collaborative relationship. And so when new or emerging technologies come into existence, a lot of times those teams, even if they're not specifically working on accessibility, because accessibility is such a big part of the culture and people are really passionate about it, they'll come to us and they'll say, "Hey, we have this idea. Can we, could we do this like with with like a radar sensor, right? Like, could we enable hand gestures in the real world and things like that?" And many times these products come directly into fruition. And Live Transcribe is an example of that, where basically one of our engineers, Chet, and one of our research scientists, Dimitri, who's deaf, basically they had trouble communicating in the office, and Chet was like, "Hey, we have the ASR, and like, why can't I just build an app and plug the phone up to the ASR automatic speech transcription capability and see if that helps him communicate with Dimitri." And that's how live caption came into being. They also won an internal hackathon award. So it's just fun and funny to hear how similar we operate internally to Microsoft. And then I met up with those guys, and we figured out how to like bring this into the marketplace, into millions or tens of millions of users. And so it's really exciting. And whenever we see new technology, we just try to figure out how we can make the biggest difference for the people that use our products.
And that's a great story to hear. But I think there are still some overlooked areas in the disability spectrum and in accessibility that we've talked about on our interviews. But for this panel, Brian, what do you think are some areas of disability that still need to be looked at, and there's still a lot more work to be done?
So for one, there's always more work to be done. For two,
Right.
We can always do a better job, right? And I think for three, we've done as an industry, I think we've done a fairly good job at addressing sort of single disability conditions, right? Like, if I'm blind, I can use a screen reader. If I'm deaf, I can use captions, or various other products. So I think in that respect, We've done a good job. But what if I'm both deaf and blind, right? So
Right.
no longer does the spoken output of the screen reader work, nor does the visual output of the captioning product work, right? And so I think when you overlay different disability conditions, you make the product development process much more difficult. And
Yeah.
I think these are opportunities for us to, further innovate and do a better job, right? And so particularly for deafblind users, I would like to have much better deafblind support by way of Braille display, native as part of TalkBack, and whatnot. And there are a variety of other areas that I think we could improve too. But like multiple disability conditions is something that's very difficult and challenging to design for, and something that I have a lot of hope that we can improve as we move forward.
That's definitely one that came up from my interviews with different people in the community, that the intersectionality of disability is one that still remains to be addressed. Jenny, in our interview, you mentioned neurodiversity as one of the continually under or overlooked areas. Do you want to expand a bit more on that and share a bit more on what you think are some continually overlooked areas in disability?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a real year of learning in so many ways. A lot of what we knew a year ago has definitely evolved. If I look at a couple of areas, one being neurodiversity, another being mental health. Neurodiversity from a technology perspective, I think, is untapped. I think there's a lot more to learn. We have an incredible program manager in Microsoft Teams who actually created the hand raise button, which is, hey, I want to speak, but I'm not sure how to interrupt. So I'm going to hit a button and that gives a visual signal. I think that's a great example of how expertise from an individual with a disability can impact in technology, and also an example of a feature that is not just beneficial for him, but beneficial for everyone. It's always awkward to know when do I get to speak, whether you have a disability or not. And I think we've also learned a lot about this from Immersive Reader, which is specific tools we have for dyslexia, and how we embed those more beautifully into technology. But I think the other area is mental health. Mental health this year has grown more than I've seen any other disability at any time. The Mental Health America numbers show that mental health screenings for anxiety and depression have gone up anywhere between 670% and nearly 900% year over year. And so features specifically to power people with mental health conditions, I think, has never been more important. It's going to be pretty exciting to see how we lean into that over the coming months and years.
And my next question, Brian sort of touched on in his answer, but Jenny, do you want to tell us some of the challenges, though, in designing to be more inclusive?
Well, I don't see them as challenges. I think that it's all it's like the coolest thing that you can possibly do. I think there's core principles to designing to be inclusive. I mean, the key thing to recognize here is that if you take this step and you really do embrace feedback from people with disabilities, you include in the process, you're going to create better stuff. And also another key principle is if you don't know if it's accessible, it's not. So it's really just stupidly important to really invest time here to learn these skill sets. And it is about making sure that you have that bar of education, that people know where to go, how to get that feedback, how to bounce it off the right people, how to bring that in, and how to prioritize it. And then how to get the right support when you want to make sure that something like an adaptive controller, a 3D printed piece of gorgeous plastic, can you get that into production? How could you get the packaging, which was the other element that team really grooved on, to just be something that's every thing that comes out of Microsoft has this amazing, inclusive, and sustainable packaging. So, I think there's definite methodologies to this and best practices. But the first is to really recognize this stuff isn't optional. It is incredibly important. I know, Brian, what do you think?
So, Brian, yeah, exactly. Sorry. Brian, I mean, it's okay. Brian, you did.
I couldn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't agree. So I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I love the work that you guys have done on the Xbox controller. And I just think it's such a fantastic example of thinking about accessibility from the very beginning, right? Starting with the hardware, starting with the industrial design, and then moving forward into the software experience. Because if you're just talking about software, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's relatively easy. If you're talking about hardware and you're not considering industrial design, then it doesn't matter. All the good software in the world is not going to overcome that, lack of good industrial design or lack of thinking about diversity, inclusion, accessibility at the very beginning of that process, right? Software is easier to change than hardware, so I think that's really great, really great work and really great effort.
We're nearing the end of time for our panel, so I just wanted to ask my last question to both of you, starting with Brian. What are you hopeful for improvements in accessibility and inclusive design and technology in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I think I've been working on accessibility and inclusive design now at Google for going on 4 years. And just in terms of that time, the number of launches, the number of people we've hired, the sort of prominence and importance that that accessibility has at Google at every single level of the company. And you can see it with the acceleration of all of these new launches and features and all of this innovation that we've done. It's just growing and it's just building momentum. And this was, look, last year was a hard year. And I think a lot of this year, we're going to be just trying to dig ourselves out, like humanity's digging itself out from 2020. But I think 2021 is a super hopeful year for me. And I see, our teams having adapted, having become much more flexible. And quite frankly, a lot of accessibility issues have come to the fore as a result of all of the drama that we've all been through. And that's given us kind of a new level of resiliency and focus and really kind of determination to make things better and to improve them.
I feel like I already know what Jenny is going to say, but Jenny, are you hopeful for improvements in accessibility in tech for the years ahead?
Yeah, I'm definitely a glass half full, but I also, painfully aware of where we are right now, which this last year has really, it's proven to us all just how important this space is. We're seeing unemployment at the levels that it's at, and for people with disabilities, that's double the rate of people without disabilities. A fierce dependence on accessibility as a means to access. And I think that's a responsibility we take incredibly seriously. And I'm really, what gets me excited is learning from my peers. I mean, I love, Brian, everything you're saying, but we work together in this. This isn't an area where we necessarily compete, and we do partner and really grow as an industry the capabilities so people can get free, easy, low affordable, and independent access to technology that's going to power. And so, I get really excited about the future, but let's be real, there is a lot to do, and it's really important.
You're absolutely right. I wish we had more time to continue this conversation, but unfortunately, we are out of time today. Still, though, this was an important topic. I wanted to make sure we spend some time on it. So I want to thank Brian and Jenny for joining us today. And remember, I think if you're watching this and you may be an able-bodied person or not, inclusive design, like Jenny said, doesn't just benefit special groups of people, select groups of people. It really benefits us all. So I think that that's one good thought to kind of close this panel with. Once again, Brian and Jenny, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for focusing on this. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. And for the viewer at home, make sure you keep it locked to Engadget.com. We have plenty more content coming up for you, so stay tuned.